The Buddha once asked a student seeking his approval, "If no one praised you today, would you still know your own worth?" The student had no answer. Why such a piercing question to someone simply wanting guidance? Because the Buddha saw something the student couldn't. That every time we reach outward for someone to confirm our value, we quietly forget the source within. That question wasn't a test, it was a mirror. Today I want to hold that same mirror up, gently, for you. At dusk, a warm amber light filtered through the trees of the monastery grove. The monks had finished their day's practice. Some sat with eyes closed, some gazed quietly into the distance, others hugged their knees, lost in thought. A slow wind moved through the leaves, and among them, one young man couldn't move at all. He had been turning the same questions over in his mind all day. What do the others think of me? Am I practicing the right way? How does the Buddha see me? The more he thought, the heavier his chest became. There in the fading light, he sat alone, quietly sinking. This is the story of that evening. The senior monk, passing by with a clay water pot, noticed the young man's hunched shoulders and set the pot down without a word. He sat beside him, and for a long while, neither spoke. Only the cicadas filled the silence. Then the old monk picked up a dry leaf from the ground, held it briefly between his fingers, and let it go. The young man watched it drift, not toward anywhere in particular, just away, until it settled somewhere in the dark between the roots. "You have been holding something like that all day," the old monk said, "but unlike the leaf, you keep catching it before it lands." That night, the young man did not find his answers, but for the first time, he let one question fall. Let's call this young man Nanda. He wasn't one specific person. In the Buddha's time and in ours, there have always been people carrying this same quiet weight. Nanda was bright and perceptive. His family wasn't wealthy, but from childhood he loved learning and had a sharp, thoughtful way with words. One day he heard the Buddha teach, and something in him opened. He left home and began practicing at the monastery. But a few months in, his heart became caught on a single hook. Am I practicing correctly? That question on its own is one every sincere practitioner asks. The trouble was where it led him. He wasn't asking whether he was growing deeper. He was asking, do the others see me well? Does the Buddha approve of me? During morning meditation, he'd force himself to sit perfectly straight, so wound up with how he looked that his mind couldn't settle. During alms rounds, he'd bow carefully, and then immediately wonder, was that bow good enough? In the evenings, after talking with friends, he'd replay every word he'd said, turning them over alone in the dark. One evening, he couldn't bear it anymore. He went to the Buddha. "I've been suffering for months," he said quietly. "I'm trying so hard to practice, but no matter what I do, I can't stop thinking about how others see me. My heart won't rest. How do I find relief?" The Buddha listened without rushing. He didn't answer right away. After a long, gentle pause, he asked, "Nanda, the people whose opinions concern you so much, are they thinking about you right now?" Nanda hesitated. "I don't know. And if they did think well of you, would your suffering disappear?" Nanda went quiet. He felt somewhere inside that it wouldn't. Even if someone approved of him, something else would soon start to worry him. He already knew this. He just hadn't wanted to look at it. The Buddha continued gently, "Your suffering isn't caused by other people's eyes. It's caused by a way of seeing that lives inside you. And that way of seeing wasn't placed there by anyone else. It's something you've slowly, quietly grown." Without even noticing, Nanda looked up. "A way of seeing?" "Yes, the belief that unless someone approves of you, you have no right to be here." Those words dropped into his chest like a stone into still water. Nanda's face tightened, whether from wanting to deny it, or because it had landed too precisely. Even he couldn't tell. The Buddha looked at him and continued, "Who taught you that belief? And is it actually true?" Nanda couldn't answer. He couldn't remember who had taught him. He didn't know when he'd started believing it. He only knew that he always had. That was all he was certain of. The Buddha said quietly, "The need to be approved of, is that your task to carry, or does it belong to someone else?" With that question, Nanda fell silent again. The darkness deepened around them, hanging softly in the air. He sat with it the way you sit with something you cannot put down and cannot hold, breath shallow, hands still in his lap. Somewhere beyond the monastery wall, a single frog called out, and then nothing. It was the first silence in months that didn't feel like an accusation. The question the Buddha left with Nanda that evening, centuries later, a psychologist in Austria would ask it again, in different words. His name was Alfred Adler. "Do not intrude on another's task," he said. "Learn to separate what is your task from what belongs to someone else." At first glance, this might sound cold, like being told to stop caring about people. But when you read it alongside Buddhist teaching, something deeper comes into focus. Think about it for a moment. How someone else chooses to see you, that is their task. No matter how hard you try, no matter how sincerely you live, whether they decide you are worthy is something that happens inside them. You cannot reach it from the outside. Buddhism goes one layer further. The pain isn't really about not being approved of. It's about the belief you've been quietly gripping without realizing it. That without approval, you have no value. This is where suffering finds its structure. Every time someone's opinion shifts, your sense of worth shifts with it. A kind word brings temporary relief, but soon you're watching for the next reaction. A critical word cuts deep, and so you try harder, reach further, need more. The cycle continues. This isn't weakness. It isn't a flaw in your character. It's simply that the belief itself, that being approved of makes your existence real, keeps generating pain, no matter what you do. In Buddhist teaching, this structure is called samudaya, the origin of suffering. Suffering always has a cause, and that cause isn't found out in the world. It lives in the thirst inside us, the craving to be seen, to be affirmed, to be enough in someone else's eyes. Now you might be wondering, so should I just get rid of the need for approval? Buddhism doesn't say that. Straining to eliminate the need is itself a form of clinging. Telling yourself I shouldn't need approval only adds a new layer. The judgment that needing it makes you weak. You haven't freed yourself. You've just found a new way to be hard on yourself. The beginning, instead, is simply noticing. Right now I'm worried about what someone thinks of me. Right now I'm reaching for approval. Just seeing that, clearly without adding anything on top. And there's one more thing worth sitting with. The self you want so badly to have approved. Does it actually exist as a fixed, solid thing somewhere? Buddhism asks this question without wanting to erase you. What you call you is a gathering of conditions, what you inherited from those who raised you, the environment you grew in, the people you encountered, the experiences that shaped you, all of it flowing together to form the shape we call a person, always shifting, always arising fresh. If that's true, then the fixed self that must be approved of, who exactly is that? The question isn't trying to take you away from yourself. It's pointing, quietly, to how much suffering is created by the belief in a self that is rigid and must be defended. That belief, not you, is what keeps the pain alive. A child who has been told she is the clumsy one in her family will carry that label into every room she enters, wincing before she even reaches for the glass. The label feels like a fact, but it was never a fact. It was simply a story that hardened, through repetition, into something that felt like bone. How does this teaching live inside ordinary days? Let's look at 3 moments you might recognize. The first is at work. You say something in a meeting, then spend the next 10 minutes watching faces. Was that comment unnecessary? They didn't laugh. The response felt flat, and with each observation, something small inside you pulls inward. The pain isn't really coming from their reaction. It's coming from the belief that your words must be accepted. That without that acceptance, something essential is lost. Adler would say, how they receive what you said is their task, not yours. Buddhism takes it further and asks, what exactly do you think you lose when someone doesn't respond warmly? Whatever your answer is, that is the source of the suffering. And is that thing truly yours to begin with? The second is in your closer relationships. You ask a friend for a favor, then lie awake wondering if you were a burden. You post something online and check the response more times than you'd like to admit. Someone says something offhand, and you're still turning it over 3 days later. What these moments share is this. You've placed your sense of worth somewhere outside yourself. You've handed it to someone else to hold. And when they move, when their expression shifts, when the numbers don't climb, when a word lands wrong, You move with them. Your center of gravity is in another person's hands. What Buddhism offers here isn't detachment, it isn't turning away from people. It's a quiet return, bringing the weight of yourself back home, back inside. And this is possible while still caring deeply about others. The teaching of interdependence reminds us that we exist through our connections. Relationship is not the problem, but there is a difference between connection and being controlled by evaluation. You can be close to someone and still not need their approval to feel real. That distinction, slowly understood, can change a great deal. The third moment is quieter than the others. Nothing dramatic has happened. No failure, no conflict. Just an ordinary night and a low, formless unease. Am I enough? Is this the life I'm supposed to be living? Often this kind of anxiety has roots. Somewhere underneath it are memories of not being seen, moments of falling short of what was expected, words that left a mark. Over time, those experiences quietly hardened into a belief, I must earn my place. But here's what matters. That belief was built by conditions. It was not born true. And because it was shaped by conditions, it can, slowly with attention, shift. Noticing it today is not a small thing. It may be the first movement of something new. A monk was once asked how long it takes to become free of this kind of suffering. He said, I don't know. But this morning I noticed the thought arise, and I didn't follow it quite as far as I did yesterday. That is how it tends to go. Not a single clearing, but a gradual loosening, one moment of awareness at a time. And even that small loosening, repeated across ordinary days, can quietly reshape a life. So what is one thing you can actually do, starting today? Just this. When you notice yourself caring about someone's reaction, write it down. Nothing elaborate. A notebook, your phone's notes app, whatever is near you. When you catch yourself wondering how someone sees you, or checking for a response, or replaying a conversation, write one line. I just noticed I'm worried about how I came across to someone. I checked the response again. I'm still turning over what they said. That's all. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to stop it. You don't need to judge yourself for it. Just quietly note that it happened. In Buddhist teaching, this is the beginning of what's called right mindfulness, seeing clearly what is arising inside you, without immediately reacting to it or layering opinion on top of it. Simple, honest awareness. Why does this help? The reason approval seeking causes so much pain is that it tends to operate without being seen. When someone's reaction hurts you, the mind moves quickly toward blaming them or toward blaming yourself. But just underneath that, something quieter was already moving. The belief that without their approval, your worth is in question. When you notice that movement, just notice it without needing to do anything. A small space opens. Not a solution, a breath of space. There it is again is not the same as being swept away by it. This practice won't promise transformation on a schedule, but something does shift when you bring a little gentle light to what has been operating in the dark. One morning you may find that a reaction that would normally have unsettled you didn't. Not because the world changed, but because something in the way you see it moved, just slightly. That slight movement is not nothing. It's everything. A monk was once asked how long it took him to become free from the need for praise. He smiled and said, I'll let you know. He had been practicing for 40 years. He wasn't being evasive. He was being honest, which is itself a kind of freedom. And perhaps that is the gentler way to hold this practice, not as a problem to finally solve, but as a companion to walk with, the way you might walk alongside a river without needing to stop it or cross it or explain where it goes. Whose eyes were you most aware of today? And do you think they were thinking about you in that same moment? You don't have to answer quickly. Tonight, when you're lying in the quiet before sleep, let that question come back to you. Just once, just gently. Perhaps you'll remember the woman at the counter who handed you your change without looking up, her mind already somewhere else entirely. Or the child on the bus who stared at you openly, the way children do, and then turned to the window as if you had never existed at all. We move through each other's lives like weather, briefly felt, quickly forgotten, yet somehow still shaping the day. The stranger who held the door for you this morning has already let go of your face, but something in his chest softened, just slightly, in the act of waiting. The approval we seek from others is at its root one of the oldest defilements the Buddha described. and we explored exactly what that means in a previous teaching. The fact that other people's opinions affect you, that isn't weakness. It means you feel the presence of others deeply. That is a form of sensitivity. That is a form of care. But when that sensitivity begins to pass through a filter of evaluation, when connection quietly becomes something you need to earn, it starts to wear you down. Feeling the presence of others and needing their approval to feel real are two very different things. One opens you, the other slowly closes you in. Remember what the Buddha asked Nanda in the growing dark. Unless someone approves of you, you have no right to be here. Is that actually true? You don't need to answer that tonight. You don't need to answer it at all, not yet. Just let the question stay with you. Let it exist somewhere in the back of your chest, unhurried. The roots of a tree are invisible, but they are spreading quietly beneath the surface. The change in how things look comes after the roots have had time to grow. Thank you for being here today, for listening all the way to the end. You spent today carrying the weight of someone else's gaze, and still you moved forward. That quiet effort doesn't need anyone's approval to be real. It was always here. It has always counted. And perhaps tomorrow you will carry that weight again, and the day after that. That is all right. Even a tree does not stop being a tree on the days when no light reaches it. You are not behind, you are not failing. You are simply in the part of the story that happens before anything is visible yet. Pause. Whose face came to mind while you were listening today? One story a day. In a week, your words will change. In a month, your eyes will change. In a year, the same world will look completely different.